trusting his guys or being a little more aggressive in some of the big spots. Because when you play it close and you get too conservative, eventually that's going to catch up with you against the better teams. And Oregon would be one of those better teams, a team with enough talent to beat you. Penn State, most Saturdays, they're going to have more talent than the team they line up against. But when you play Oregon or Ohio State or the best of the best in that conference, that's where it becomes an issue.
Big Ten's going to be real interesting because I think it's down to the 4 that it was last year.
4.
Now, with Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, and Oregon. I think those are the 4 contenders.
I don't put Michigan in that category.
You still don't put Michigan in that category?
No, I think they have the right pieces, but I think with the young quarterback, it's going to be hard for them to get over the hump. I know Ohio State's got a young quarterback, but their talent level is so obscene that I think they're going to be okay. I think it's a 3-team race.
So it's a 3-team race.
Yeah, with Illinois and Michigan just on the outside looking in.
Which is interesting because you saw, like, Penn State was kind of the summer champion, which nobody ever wants to be, right? Nobody wants to be the summer champion. You want to be the champion at the end of the day. And I think a lot of people were sleeping on Oregon a little bit because of the Dante Moore not knowing. And there's still not anymore after 2 weeks, but it felt like, Chad, there was a bit of a stigma because when Dante Moore was a true freshman playing for UCLA on a team that wasn't very good, it wasn't like he lit the world on fire.
Yeah.
But he was he was 18.
Yeah.
Playing in 5 games for UCLA in a season that was kind of lost. Chip Kelly was out the door.
Yeah.
Halfway through that season. So I think there was some unfair, like, kind of stink that Dante Moore had on him and that you didn't see him play last year, other than some mop-up duty. But Ohio State, you knew, was going to be back. Anybody that was foolish enough to think that Ryan Day and Ohio State and their big money boosters were going to not just reload the same way Oregon did was foolish. And Penn State's ponied up now. And I think Michigan is going to be still a bit of a factor. I hear what you're saying about a young quarterback. And, again,
but Michigan's strong at the line of scrimmage.
Strong at the line of scrimmage. They're going to be in every game. That game at Autzen Stadium is going to be kind of crazy. Still don't know if I trust their coach in big-time situations, but I still think Michigan's going to be a bit of a factor in the Big Ten.
Yeah, and the reason why that game against Penn State is so critical, if it does come down to those 3 teams, Oregon, Ohio State, and Penn State, more than likely what's going to happen is if you lose to Penn State, they're probably only going to have one conference loss. It'll be to Ohio State, and you'll just miss the Big Ten title game just on the basis of tiebreak.
Mm-hmm.
But if you get the win over Penn State, then you put yourself in the driver's seat to meet more than likely Ohio State in the Big Ten title game. It's a critical game because if you look at Oregon's schedule, I don't see too many potential losses on the schedule. At Iowa is going to be difficult because they're just a quirky team to play in their building with their defense and the way they play and the way they dominate the clock and run the football. But outside of that, I don't see any other scary games on the schedule where, like, they can't win that or that's going to be tough. So you got to beat Penn State.
You got to beat Penn State. Iowa on the road is going to be tough. I'm still not sleeping on at Washington because Williams is a playmaker.
Yeah.
Like, they've got an absolute play. Like, I don't think they're there in terms of the rest of the skill positions, but I've seen enough heartbreak between Oregon and Washington that I think that's going to be a tricky game as well.
Yeah. And I like Jedd Fish. He knows what he's doing.
And then as every Oregon fan, and really every college football fan understands, Chad, there is just going to be a game where your guys don't show up.
Yeah.
They're kids. I don't care if they're being paid. They look like grown men. They're being paid like grown men. They are still 19, 20, 21-year-olds. It happens every single year. It's the one game where you look at the schedule and you didn't factor it in, and you're like, why are we in a ball game in the third quarter? Like, what on earth is for Oregon? I think last year it was at Wisconsin, right? Wisconsin wasn't anything to celebrate, but Oregon is all of a sudden in a dogfight in the fourth quarter against the Badgers, needing to pick up big-time fourth-down plays. Like, that was the game. And so there will be a game like that on the schedule.
Every team has it.
Yes. And
a game that you should be dominating that you're not dominating.
Just hope it's not in Seattle. USC coming to Autzen would scare me if it was early.
Yeah.
But the fact that game's going to be in November, I think they're going to tail off towards the end. But it's big-time college football. And that's the fun part about playing in the big boy conferences now is that Michigan can beat you, Wisconsin could beat you, Iowa could beat, Indiana could beat you if you don't come in and play your A game. And there's going to be 1 or 2 games where they're just not going to. Thank God Oregon doesn't play Stanford this year.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Get another stinker with Stanford and put an L on your board. That's not a good thing. I guess Penn State, the reason why people believe in them this year, they probably have the best offensive line in college football, and they've got the experience coming back at quarterback. That's what made this year so awesome is that 6 of the top 8 teams that we looked at that we thought they have a legit chance to win a championship, 6 of the 8, except for, what were the 2? Penn State and Clemson, they all had different quarterbacks coming back.
Yeah.
So you really don't know what to expect until you see them in action. You're like, okay, that guy can play. Like I think Julian's saying, he'll go through some bumps along the way, but he clearly can play quarterback at a high level. There's no question. Carson Beck looks pretty good at Miami and in his chance to rebound after a rough year at Georgia. Dante Moore looks like he's going to be just fine at Oregon. So we're starting to get some answers on these guys that we really didn't know what to expect.
Well, and I'm fascinated by what's going on in Texas with Arch Manning right now.
Yeah.
Because obviously, if his name was Arch Johnson,
yeah,
I don't know if the conversation would be the same. Like everybody keeps waiting for kind of this kid to kind of cross over. And it's like, I mean, I've watched a lot of really good quarterbacks. He doesn't look like one right now.
No.
And
that's why people are asking if he's okay, if there's something wrong physically. Steve Sarkisian's now starting to take exception to some of the questions, which is hilarious. But you're right. All I know is that when I watched him in that first game against Ohio State, and again, I'm not a scout. I just know that the football and the way he maneuvered on the field the football didn't come out of his hand well because the ball was diving at his receivers and a lot of weird arm movements. His mechanics were off. He didn't look like he was comfortable out there at all. And, come to think of it, the mechanics didn't look great this past weekend either. So something's not right. Either he can't play football very well or he's got something physically wrong with him that they're just trying to cover up because they don't want people to know about it. And in college football, you have the advantage of not having to report anything to anyone. You can just stay hush-hush about injuries.
Well, and I hope it's not true because I don't like rooting against kids. And it's not like Arch
Even if they're high paid?
Sometimes if they're high paid and if they play for Washington. But for the most part, like I rooted against Michael Penix a lot.
And he was great.
Dude. So I don't want to root against, but again, you have to wonder when you have that kind of football royalty in your last name, are coaches going to be honest with you? Like were coaches through high school going to be honest? Now I know he's got 2 uncles that are Hall of Fame NFL players, and he's got a dad who's a Hall of Famer in terms of coaching the quarterback position. All he has to do is go to the family dinner table, and that's probably for more football knowledge than any coach he's ever going to play for. But you just have to wonder, like, along the way, was there maybe some evaluation that was missed because nobody wanted to upset the Manning apple cart?
Well, I think the answer to your question is yes, people will not be honest with the Manning family. And I think the other example of that would be Coach Prime at Colorado, because Coach Prime is a great person, great player. He's one of the all-time greats, and people don't want to upset him because he's a very cool guy. And you don't want to lose access. Same thing with the Manning family. You don't want to upset the family because you want access to be able to do different things with the entire family. It's a big family. It's football royalty, as you mentioned. So I think what happens is instead of someone going up to Coach Prime and saying, hey, just so you know, your son's projected to be maybe second or third. And by the way, I'm also hearing that he's not handling his interviews well, and you better get a hold of that because he's going to drop significantly in the draft. No one wants to tell Coach Prime that, which is unfortunate because they didn't have real data, they didn't prepare properly for that interview process. And I think the same thing goes with the Manning family. What I feel bad about for Arch, he's not the one who was hyping himself. The family wasn't hyping Arch. He was being hyped by the media and fans because he's a Manning, and so the expectations got a little bit out of whack. And this is why we love football so much. Playing quarterback is the hardest position in all of sport, right? There are guys that just can't do it at a high level. And maybe that's the case for Manning. We'll find out. I'm not going to make any bold proclamations off of 2 games, but, if he can't get it done at a high level based on expectation, he wouldn't be the first. Quarterback is hard, man.
Here's what's the fascinating part of college football, and also for me kind of the frustrating part, because we are going to be getting into week 3, right?
Yeah.
Oregon's going to Northwestern. Week 3 is going to happen. That's 25% of the games.
Yeah.
Like we are almost a quarter of the way into the season. It feels like it just kicked off.
I know, it sucks.
And we're going to be a quarter of the way into the season by Saturday. So it goes real fast from, it's too early to tell, to all of a sudden you blink, the season's halfway over. Like, it's going to be a quarter over.
Wow.
So you can, in college football, start making some prognostications and start making some fairly valid opinions. So in the first 2 weeks, I mean, for me, obviously, I think Oregon is a huge standout, and you look at the way that they moved up. But
I can say this: Texas is not winning a national championship with Manning playing quarterback the way he is right now.
It doesn't feel like. But who's the best team in college football? In the first 2 weeks, and I realize rubber hasn't met the road for a lot of teams, but when you look at, usually by this time you can have an idea of who the best team in college football is. I think there's about 5 or 6 candidates right now.
That's a good question. I haven't thought of it like that. Through 2 weeks, who is the best team in college football? Ah, my goodness. Okay, so the teams that have been the most impressive to me, I would put LSU up there.
Yep.
That win at Clemson with the defense, and they've got an experienced quarterback, like they're legit. And they were not one of the 8 teams considered to be title contenders before the year. They're awesome. I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I also think that Miami has been wildly impressive. The win against Notre Dame and the way they did it with the play of Carson Beck, they were impressive. I also think Oregon has been unbelievable, and I would say Ohio State's in the mix on that. But I would say of all the teams through 2 weeks, I would say LSU's been the most impressive.
Which is nuts because, like you said, they were nowhere close to the conversation.
No.
Coming in.
But when I saw their defensive performance at Clemson, I'm like, that team can beat anybody in the country. And they've got a coach who, while being a bit weird and douchey with the fake accent and kind of an a-hole, he's a great coach. You know, Brian Kelly's a very good coach. So, yes, I think LSU through 2 weeks for me has been the most impressive.
To me, I still am with taking Oregon out of it because I can't say Oregon because then everybody, like all the nice things.
You're
that
a homer.
People,
Shut
like
up,
all
man.
the nice things that people were texting about me, which I appreciate. It was going to go out the window real fast if I throw out a couple more hot takes. And maybe I've elevated that week 1 win, but I think Ohio State, the way that they just now maybe Arch isn't the guy, and maybe Texas's offense isn't going to be anything special come November, December.
Yeah.
But the way that Ohio State, what do you have, 1 yard passing?
Yeah.
7 points in an opener. Like, that's a legit defense.
Yeah.
It's a legit defense, and
They're
they've
really
got playmakers all over the place. I think Ohio State might be the best team in the country, and I hate that.
Yeah, I'm just mad at myself for not recognizing what Ohio State is as a program. And I knew by talking to Alex Brink that Julian Sand was a guy who would be able to play. He looked really good. The other team I think that deserves mention for exceptional play through 2 weeks, Mike Norvell's done a heck of a job at Florida State. They've got some dudes. They look great. They dominated Alabama, blew them out of the water, and then they came up and got a blowout win against the bum. But they look like a team that's going to be a problem in the ACC. And before the season began, Clemson was looked at as the team without any resistance in the conference, and they would probably have access to the number 1 seed in the playoff. And now I'm looking at the conference. I'm like, Clemson may not be a part of it. It might come down to Miami and
Florida State.
Yeah. But,
Let's throw it back to like
the
92.
90s. Yeah.
Let's go.
Isn't that crazy, though? Norvell, and one thing that's pretty obvious about Norvell, what happened last year was just a one-off. That was a blip in the radar. If you look at his track record, he can recruit because half the players from that team from a couple of years ago at Florida State are in the NFL making an impact. But he's beaten big-time coaches in big-time showdowns before. He obviously knows what he's doing.
If the schools in Florida can keep the players from Florida, there's no stopping them. That's been the problem the last couple of years. But Cristobal was brought in specifically to do that.
Yeah, and what's he doing?
Keep the kids in Miami.
Yes, he's recruiting Miami.
Yeah.
Dude, Howard Schnellenberger showed the plan for them. Go to the city. Go to Miami. You'll find guys.
It's a 15-mile radius. And you'll have 85 dudes that can all ball.
All right, Justin Meyers hanging out with us. We're talking ball. You got the Rip City Drive with Chad doing on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. He went through about 2.5 quarters of looking like against the Bears. He went through about 2.5 quarters of looking like the game was too big for him. Like he had no idea what he was doing out there. And then all of a sudden, the Bears miss a field goal, and he puts together 3 straight drives with scores where he's making big-time throws with anticipation, and then he runs in the final one to get them the victory. Like, that was an impressive game. And I'm thinking, if you're a Viking fan today, you have to feel great about that first game. That was awesome.
Think about the emotional roller coaster that they were probably on, because you went from when they drafted him, it wasn't like they were all that stoked about drafting the quarterback out of Michigan who couldn't throw the ball.
Yeah. And wasn't allowed to throw the ball?
It wasn't allowed to throw the ball is more like it when you look back at it now, because clearly he can chuck the rock. But when he was drafted, it wasn't like you were all that stoked. And then he had some pretty good preseason hype a year ago and then got hurt. And then all of a sudden, you get Sam Darnold in there. He's good enough, and then you let Sam Darnold go, and now everybody going all in with the second-year player, but he's a rookie, and then that's what he puts up on Monday Night Football to start the season. You're ready to bench him. You're ready to move on. All of a sudden, at halftime, Vikings fans are already looking at the draft board, wondering who is going to be going number one coming out of college football, and then boom, out of nowhere, figures it out, makes some adjustments, puts Chicago on their heels, and gets a big-time win.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome. Elsewhere, how about that game between the Steelers and Jets? Your Pittsburgh Steelers.
That's right.
34-32 winners. Justin Fields might have had the best week of any of the starting quarterbacks in the NFL, which is wild to me. But then there's Aaron Rodgers, 4 touchdowns, making big plays down the stretch. And the Steelers, they got down big early. They continued to battle, and they got the win. And that was, if it wasn't for Buffalo and Baltimore, that would have been the game of the week. I just thought it was awesome. What was your reaction as a Steeler fan to see Aaron Rodgers out there wheeling and dealing?
First off, this is what I love most about sports, is that we root for laundry. We're rooting for laundry.
Yeah.
Right? I was never the biggest Aaron Rodgers fan, but I wasn't one of the the people that came out of the woodworks that were ready to run him out of the league for, let's just say, what happened a couple years ago that we don't even need to dive into. But I wasn't ready to run him out of the league. He's never my favorite guy. Kind of annoying. Obviously arrogant for a good reason, but all of a sudden he puts on that black and yellow, Chad, and is like, I kind of like this guy.
Yeah.
But it's for the first time since Ben Roethlisberger, I believe it was 5 years ago. I think 5 years ago, Ben Roethlisberger against the Seahawks blew up his elbow.
Yeah.
And from that moment on, the Steelers' best quarterback was Mason Rudolph and Duck Hodges and a washed Russell Wilson and just a slew of guys that could not make a throw on 3rd and 8. That I say it all the time, right? NFL, you live on 3rd and 8. Can you convert 3rd and 8? If you can, you have a chance. And for the first time since 2019, Pittsburgh finally has. Even when Big Ben came back, he couldn't throw the ball more than 15 yards. And now you have a guy that can actually stretch the field. DK Metcalf looked awesome. I hope he continues to stay happy and doesn't get disgruntled. But the thing that I love about the Steelers is they went all in. Like, you look at all of the moves. They went out and got Jalen Ramsey. They went out and got Darius Slay. They went out and got Aaron Rodgers. And it's like, look, there is a window that is closing around TJ Watt in this defense. We need to make some moves, and they went and did it.
That's great. And you're right about the quarterbacks. Elway talked about this a lot when he was still playing, that I make my money on 3rd down.
Yeah.
Elite quarterbacks have to be able to move the chains on 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9. When the defense knows what you're going to do, you can't scheme it up, and you've got to go out there and deliver a football in a tight window with guys getting up in your face. That's what it comes down to. The great ones can, and the ones who are average or below can't. That's the difference. It's 3rd and 9.
I've called it my Hard Knocks theory. I love the show Hard Knocks on HBO.
Yeah.
And the knock on Hard Knocks is what I love about it, is it's always the same, right? It's the same show every single year. And you realize that's because every NFL camp is the same. Every NFL facility is the same. They all have the same, motivational stuff on the walls. They all do, the same kind of preparation. So how is it if all of these camps, all of these preseason camps and practices and these coaches that make rounds, if everything is the same, how do certain teams just elevate? It's because they got a quarterback. And that's what it is. It's what the NFL is designed to do, is do you have a quarterback, and does the majority of your roster stay healthy? If you can do those two things, you're going to have a chance to win the Super Bowl. If you don't have a quarterback anymore in this league, you do not have a chance. The days of Trent Dilfer and the Baltimore Ravens making that run with just straight defense, those days are over. You can't win like that.
How great was Justin Herbert in that opener against Kansas
He's
City?
going to be so good. I've been a Justin Herbert guy since his freshman year at Oregon. You've seen like the arm talent, and now, and I love Mark Helfrich, but he had Mark Helfrich, then he had Willie Taggart, and then he had the most conservative head coach of all time in Mario Cristobal, and Brandon Staley is who he had?
Anthony Lynn,
Brandon Staley. Like, it's not exactly a Hall of Fame list of coaches that
one of the worst
played
runs
for.
a quarterback's ever had in the coaching department.
And now he gets Jim Harbaugh. The thing about Herbert is he is a football nerd, right? He looks like a rock star, but he's a football nerd, and so is Jim Harbaugh. And when you hear Harbaugh talk about how much he loves Herbert, it's because those two guys are obsessed with the game. They went into Brazil, beat the dog out of the Kansas City Chiefs. They're going to be a factor. They're going to be a factor.
So awesome. Yeah, Justin Herbert's great. I love him. He's a top 5 guy. I don't need someone to tell me whether he's a top 5 guy or not. I've watched enough football to know that Justin Herbert, there's only 3 teams that would not want Justin Herbert right now. Kansas City, Cincinnati, and Baltimore. And, a fourth, Buffalo.
Yeah.
Those are the only places. Every other team would be like, oh, we'll take that guy.
100%.
Yeah. Yeah, Josh Allen, are you talking about guys who can make plays on 3rd and 9? Allen would be one of those guys.
How about that comeback? Oh. Like, it was over.
Dude,
it was done.
I had a longtime Bills fan text me out of the blue after that game, and he was going spicy. Josh Allen is the greatest Bill of all time. And I'm like, I had to think about it because I'm like, dude, is he better than Jim Kelly, Bruce Smith, or Thurman Thomas? He goes, yes. It's a spicy.
He's made 0. And I like Josh Allen.
Yeah.
But
it's a spicy take.
0. And I like Josh Allen.
Yeah.
But
it's a spicy take.
You got to make it to the Super Bowl.
He'll never get the credit. That team will never get the credit they deserve. But just having the intestinal fortitude to go back to 4 Super Bowls in a row after 3 straight losses, like there's something about you to be able to do that, to stomach that. But Josh Allen's on his way. He will eventually wind up being the undisputed greatest Bill of all time.
You think so? All right.
Probably.
They got a pretty good run ahead of them.
Wow. He's so good. All right, Justin Meyers.
This was fun.
Thank you for getting together for coffee and hanging out
course.
with me. You're welcome in the studio anytime. And tell your wife I said hi and enjoy the Sunday afternoon out there in your backyard watching ball.
Thing that has not changed, Chad. The backyard TV reigns supreme.
Now, when does soup season start?
Well, I mean, soup season is determined by the climate, and it feels like
it's not soup season yet.
Grill season is sticking around a little bit longer. Soup season, probably looking late October.
All right, Justin Meyers, where can people find your podcast?
I-5 Corridor is where you can find the podcast. It's called The Traffic Report. Search I-5 Corridor wherever you listen to finer podcasts, and it usually drops on Wednesdays.
All right, Justin Meyers will come back. Alex Brink, former Coug, is going to join us next on the Rip City Drive. Hey, what's up, Chad here? It's 4 o'clock. Alex Brink, former Coug, going to join us coming up here in just a couple of moments to talk some ball. And then at 4:20, my good friend Colin Amos from the law offices of Goldberg Jones is going to stop by and answer your 49 suspension after missing the entire opener against the Cowboys when he spit on Dak Prescott. The 49ers, after missing the entire opener against the Cowboys when he spit on Dak Prescott, the 49ers have cut kicker Jake Moody after a brutal week one that included a 27-yard miss and a 36-yarder that was blocked. Tight end George Kittle placed on IR with a hamstring injury. No word was given on whether or not that was sustained when he was riding a deer. The Mariners host the Cards tonight, 6:40 first pitch. George Kirby gets the call for the Seattle M's have won 3 straight, surprisingly. They start the day 2 back of Houston in the West. From college, Colorado expected to start Ryan Staub at quarterback Friday night when they play at Houston. Josh Giddey signs a 4-year, $100 million extension with the Bulls. All right, you know this, but I love football season. The first 2 weeks and the first week of the NFL have been phenomenal. And, of course, that means we have an opportunity every week to talk to our college football and NFL insider, Alex Brink, former Coug and now with E4 Sports. He is back. Alex, what's up, brother?
How we doing, my friend?
Oh, man, the games. That week one in the NFL is one of the best first weeks I've had in a long time to be able to sit back and watch wild game after wild game. It's been so much fun, and I know you're enjoying it too. But let's start with one of the young quarterbacks who got his first start last night with the Vikings. How about J.J. McCarthy? 2.5 quarters of some of the worst football I've ever seen, and then 3 straight drives where he's making big-time throws on target with anticipation to lead his team to victory. And I know you're a big fan of Coach O'Connell, but I just talk about what you saw and the way he was able to put his quarterback, his young QB, in a position to have success late.
Well, I certainly think that, it's for a rookie quarterback first year starter, in your first game, there's going to be a little bit of that slow start. And, J.J. McCarthy was definitely, that was part of it. And I think he stayed confident through, which I was really impressed with. I think Kevin O'Connell does a really nice job of protecting the quarterback at times in the pass game with play action, quick passes, finding ways to scheme things up for him. But also, the other thing that Kevin does is, he really leans into a player's strength. And he knows that J.J. McCarthy, can make big throws in big moments and push the ball downfield. So he's going to let him, and you saw at times, him trusting his quarterback even late in the game to try and make big throws. And McCarthy stepped up in a big way.
It was pretty cool to see the sideline erupt. I thought it was nice after McCarthy ran for that touchdown to put them in a position to win. Like, all the veterans were coming over to kind of dap him up, Alex. You could see how happy everyone on that sideline was, coaches and players. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, game, respect game sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, veteran players respect young players that can manage through that and don't look overwhelmed, right? Like, in the locker room, he's saying, I got this, guys. Like, don't worry about it. Throws the pick six, comes back, head held high. Like, don't worry, we're still good. Defense really picked the team up too, right? And so that certainly helped. And, in the end, J.J. McCarthy's won a lot of football games, right? He's got a national championship under his belt. He's got some cachet in that locker room, even as a young player. And even after last night, he's going to have a lot more.
We also had a chance to see Caleb Williams' first game with his new head coach, Ben Johnson, and we're waiting to see how things are going to look in terms of being able to be on schedule and delivering the football on time and on target. What'd you see from Caleb?
It was a little up and down for sure. I mean, there was some really bright spots. He started 10 for 10 or something like that, and felt like he was in a pretty good spot. It felt at times like maybe he was pressing a little bit. I also feel like at times his guys didn't help him. He threw some beautiful throws in big moments that guys dropped, and if you're a big time receiver, you're supposed to make plays. In my opinion, that he was on balls he delivered, and so. I think it could have gone either way, right? You knew Minnesota, even with a new starter, is still a good football team. The Bears were really in control of that game. I also think Ben Johnson could have helped Caleb Williams out. There was a drive there, kind of in the third quarter, I think late third quarter, early fourth quarter, where DeAndre Swift was, unstoppable. And all of a sudden, inexplicably on first and second down, you don't hand the ball off to him, and then you're in a third and long. And so I just think, I think it's a learning experience for them. I think Caleb Williams can continue to get better. But I definitely think he showed flashes still.
We're talking with Alex Brink, our college football and NFL insider, former Coug here on the Rip City Drive. How about Aaron Rodgers' debut with the Steelers against his former team, the Jets, 4 touchdowns and making big throw after big throw? What'd you think about the old man?
Yeah, really efficient, and I guess no surprise, even though it's been a couple of years, right?
Yeah.
It felt like Aaron Rodgers was playing at a high level, so I guess in that sense it is a surprise, and but I think that roster is really well constructed. I think Arthur Smith does a good job of designing plays. He's kind of asking Rodgers to go under center and commit to more play action pass, and it seems like Rodgers has bought into that, and that's led to some big plays, big shot plays. You also got, you get a guy like DK Metcalf, you get some big pieces on the offense that can really help him. And in a way, he really only needs to kind of be the point guard, right, and just distribute.
On the other side with Justin Fields, I don't think he made a bad throw the entire game. It was probably the best game he's ever played as a pro. He was truly impressive. I felt heartbroken for him that they lost that game. But, it's weird. I watched one game, and I know you can't make judgments from one game, but I left that game feeling like you can build around Justin Fields and win. He was unbelievable. What'd you think about his performance?
What I think in general about Justin Fields is that, he's a victim of, what a lot of quarterbacks go through in that league, and that you get thrown in as a high draft pick, you get thrown into bad situations.
Yeah.
And it really affects not only your confidence, but people's confidence in you. Justin Fields is a fantastic football player, elite talent, even better person. And I think if he's in the right situation, he can have a lot of success. And I'm hoping that is what he is in right now because, look, there's been things about the Sam Darnolds of the world, the Geno Smiths of the world. Just you go down the list of guys who even right now are having, a kind of resurrection in their careers after being in really bad spots. And I'm hoping that Justin Fields, that this is the situation for him because he can be the player that we saw the other night, I think, week in and week out.
Hey, Alex, you play football at a high level. What's it like for you when you watch Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson going back and forth, elite level play like that? What was your thoughts?
I like watching Superman, fly over you, honestly. Some of the things both of them. But look, that last drive that Josh Allen had, I don't think people understand how difficult of a throw, because he makes it look so easy, how difficult of a throw it was that Josh Allen made over the top of the defensive back to Josh Palmer to get that big first down to get him kind of towards field goal range, right?
How does that not get picked off?
He threw the ball. It's literally the most perfect throw at the most perfect time, right? He threw it at a time when the defender was recovering from, recovering in the route to try and get there. He threw it with such great trajectory that it was a little too high for the guy to go up and get it, but enough trajectory to drop it down into Palmer's hands. The space and time that he had to make that throw and get it up and down before the sideline, it's literally nearly impossible, Chad. And so to see him do it again with such ease, and it makes you just literally jaw dropping, in all honesty, and so fun because what a better guy is Josh Allen, and to see him keep coming into his own is pretty cool.
Football is such a cruel game, and I know you've had this experience when you played. Derrick Henry had a phenomenal night and looked unstoppable. But no one will remember it because he had a key fumble late that allowed Buffalo to get back in the game. It's just weird how the game works out sometimes. Jeez.
You're playing at the highest level with, the best players in the world. And even if you are one of the best players in the world, you have to be so locked in, right? And Derrick Henry in a bad moment decides to fight for extra yards and not just protect the football, and the worst happens, right? And even for a guy like that, that's a learning lesson, right? There's no reason to fight for extra yards in that moment. And even just entering the line of scrimmage should probably have two hands on the football. And so, the best make mistakes too sometimes.
Alex, some people were upset with Coach Bray using profanity during his halftime interview with Nigel Burton. But I got to be honest with you, if I was coaching a team and I saw my punter kick a worm burner across the turf into the hands of a defender who returns it for a touchdown, I might do the same thing.
Yeah, I don't know if you can get mad at football coach for using a curse word. I mean, it's just kind of par for the course, in all honesty, you know. And I mean,
Especially when you go to him right
yeah, I
after a
mean,
brutal half. What do you expect him to do? Smile?
yeah, and think about just how maddening that must be as a coach to prepare all week, and then you don't have you got your third string snapper in there. This is such an important game for Oregon State to try and get back on the right side of things. And I mean, I think I don't remember the exact stat, but I think that their Oregon State offense outgained the Fresno offense, and they still lost by 2 possessions. So it's. I mean, that was a tough one to watch. It was probably an even tougher one to experience as a head coach.
The most crazy stat in the NFL over the weekend that I saw, the Colts possessed the ball 7 times against the Dolphins and did not punt. Isn't that crazy?
I saw that. It's like the first time it's ever happened, right, for them or something like that. Yeah, I did see that stat. It was incredible. How about Daniel? Speaking of resurrections, how about Daniel Jones? Good for him, huh?
Gosh, I love that because I love resurrection stories. And so to see him go out there, because I got to be honest with you, I looked at 2 teams before the season began. I'm like, okay, the Saints are awful, and I'm glad I'm not a New Orleans fan. And I was like, the Colts have Anthony Richardson and Daniel Jones. I'm glad I'm not a Colts fan, and he goes out there and just lights up the Dolphins. That was amazing.
No, it was. I mean, right. It's week 1, so we always got to pump the brakes a little bit after week 1. But he did look good. I don't know if that's a product of how bad potentially the Miami defense might be, but he certainly came out and took advantage.
All right, 2 more questions for you. How about your Cougs dominating San Diego State, and you get a big game from Potter? The offense, after an anemic week 1, looks so much better. I thought that was going to be a close football game. How do you feel about the Cougs, and what did you see that was different against a pretty good opponent in San Diego State?
Well, I was really concerned going into that game, right? San Diego State returned all 11 starters on defense. They had transfer quarterback from Michigan. They hammered the transfer portal, retained a lot of their guys. I mean, I think that's going to be still a good football team, right? Sean Lewis, the head coach, is a really good offensive play caller. So I was concerned. I think my takeaways were that the offense was definitely better. I think the offensive scheme that Washington State has brought in under offensive coordinator Danny Freund has a chance to be pretty special. It's different than the air raid, but it's more multiple. It's something kind of close to my heart, so I like it. More importantly, I think their defense is elite. I think the players they brought with them from South Dakota State, if you can believe it, are really, really talented. And, they're veterans. They're a bunch of fifth-year seniors, and boy, do they fly around, Chad. They fly around and they hit. They made a fast San Diego State football team look slow. We'll have to see here this week. Cougs travel to North Texas, which is another fast football team. And if Cougs get off to a 3-0 start, watch out. They have a chance to go 4-0 against the Dogs in the Apple Cup in Pullman in 2 weeks.
Gosh, it's awesome. That was such a big win. It was very impressive. You've been telling me, for a while now how much you like Dante Moore and what he brings to the table as a player. I got to be honest with you, man. After watching him a couple of weeks and seeing him in that Oregon offense with Coach Stein, he looks tremendous, and he's dynamic.
Dante is a really talented player. Again, known him for a few years back to Elite 11, thought super highly of him after my time with him in the Elite 11 finals. I thought, the UCLA, I actually thought he played okay at UCLA. I just think it was not a great situation, in all honesty. And I think kudos to him to have the maturity to decide to maybe leave not a great situation and have the humbleness to sit behind a player last year in Dylan Gabriel and learn and get better. And now he's the guy in Oregon, at Oregon. And, I think Oregon's one of the most impressive football teams through 2 weeks of college football.
That's great. All right, Alex Brink, former Coug, also with E4 Sports. I wanted to ask you about one of your key partnerships, because you're doing so many great things at eForce, but one of those partnerships is with Headquarters Physical Therapy.
Yeah, HQPT is a very important part of our kind of eForce ecosystem. So all of our facilities here in the Portland metro area and in Bend have a Headquarters Physical Therapy clinic in them. HQPT works with everybody, not just athletes, everyday Joes like you and I, who want to be healthy and live an active lifestyle. And I love their model, Chad. It's different than kind of your normal PT clinic. You're going to come in and you're going to see a physical therapist one-on-one for an hour, and they're really going to address your needs and where you need to, get healthy or feel better, not just from injury, but just in general. And so, if you're an active person, somebody that likes to get out and bike and run and work out or whatever, or you're an athlete, check out Headquarters Physical Therapy, headquarterspt.com, and, get in and see one of their incredible physical therapists.
So what town does North Texas play in? Like, where are you going to be traveling to this weekend?
It's a fascinating question. I did not know the answer to that until a few weeks ago. They're in Denton, Texas, which is a semi-suburb of Dallas, so only about 30 minutes from DFW. So it's actually a decent, not a bad travel trip in all honesty.
Oh, good. So you can fly into Dallas. You'll be able to get to the campus really easy. And now North Texas traditionally has been one of those scary teams to play when you're not familiar, right? Because they do get a lot of good scraps down there from the state.
I do, and there's some connections to Washington State, right? Old Washington State offense coordinator Eric Morris, who brought Cam Ward and recruited John Mateer to the Palouse. He is the head coach at North Texas, so we're going to see the air raid. We're going to see again some talented athletes and a tough scheme to stop. So yeah, it's a very dangerous football team.
Well, all of my family from Oklahoma who are Sooner fans, they would like to thank you for John Mateer because he looks pretty good.
Yeah, he's a good player, really good player.
Alex, man, it's Alex Brink, love him. So from Alex Brink, we move on now.
Yeah, take care.
Boom, Alex Brink, love him. So from Alex Brink, we move on now. My good buddy Colin Amos from the law offices of Goldberg Jones is going to be in studio to answer your questions. He's also a degenerate who has got a sheet with him with his picks. So he's got to be happy about the way the Dogs are playing right now. So Colin is going to talk with us next. You got the Rip City Drive with Chad doing on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. Friend from the law offices of Goldberg Jones, Divorce for Men.
I'm digging this.
You love that. Friend from the law offices of Goldberg Jones, Divorce for Men.
I'm digging this.
You love that, don't you?
Man, that is. I've never heard this song. It is good.
Nice work, Shacker.
Yeah.
1-800-DIVORCE is the telephone number. We got some questions from you, the listener, that Colin is going to answer like usual. And, of course, now the football season's here. I reached out to Colin last week. I'm like, hey, we got to plan our next radio segment. And, of course, it devolved into a quick conversation about football. I got to be honest with you. Like, I've been watching football like you have for years. The first 2 weeks of the college season, in combination with what we got in week 1 of the NFL, it's so freaking awesome,
It was
man.
phenomenal. I'm geeked out. I had to help my wife on Saturday, although I was listening and following college all day.
Yeah.
And I just said, just please leave me alone on Sunday. I have to sit with Scott Hansen and, watch Red Zone and just immerse myself. And what a day.
It was so good. The games were so great. I loved every single moment of it. And that's why I tell the guys, it's like, look, you need to do planning ahead of time. If you know that your wife's going to hit you with a certain list of things that need to be done, get on that before Saturday or Sunday to make sure you can carve out the necessary time to watch the games you want to watch, or you're screwed.
That's right. And before 10, you got all the way till 10 a.m. Just get up early, get that checklist done, and be ready to sit down at 10. But leave me alone at 10 o'clock.
I mean, Sunday was one of those, I can't take my eyes off the television.
I watched every minute all the way, and then that
through
last
Buffalo
game,
and Baltimore.
God, that was crazy.
What an absurd game. It was a perfect ending to that Sunday.
Oh, I had wagers on both sides of that thing, and I was thinking, okay, I'm losing my Buffalo, but I'm winning on my Ravens. Then I'm going to lose my Ravens, but I win on my Buffalo. And then I could middle this, and I was just a wreck. But what a beautiful wreck it was.
Gosh, it was such a great game. That was a phenomenal football game. That's one of those regular season instant classics that we'll talk about for a long time.
Yeah, that's a playoff game. That was like the Super Bowl right there.
And quarterback play at the highest of levels. You're watching Lamar Jackson. I'm watching those two teams, Buffalo and Baltimore. I'm like, man, Denver's really good, but they're not at that level yet.
Yeah, they're usually offenses are not that tuned in that perfectly. I was just shocked. And I thought the reason I was on the Ravens to win is just because I felt that they were more complete. It's going to take time for the quarterbacks to tune up. And they got Josh, and Josh does what Josh does, but the first game, there's no way he's going to be able to carry the team like he always does, and he did.
He did. And you know what's crazy about football? Your thought was right. Baltimore outplayed them for the majority of the game.
Yeah.
And then one fumble by someone who had a phenomenal game changed the entire complexion of the game. That one fumble.
Well, and before that 4th and 3, and he throws it, and he tips off a guy, deflection. I mean, there's some magic that just happened. That was phenomenal.
A lot of times to have a comeback like that, you need great play, which they got from Josh Allen and his teammates, but you also need a little luck. Yeah. And that was a lucky ricochet, and Josh was unhappy because he thought it was going to be incomplete, and that guy came out of nowhere to scoop it. Gosh, it was awesome. All right.
It was.
You've got your
I've
picks.
got
What
picks.
do you got?
Okay, so I'm going to give you the chance to make your pick. I'm going to give you a week ahead at sometimes, too, because I got some college games in here.
Oh, good.
And they're over-unders, win totals, and you're going to tell me what I've got what I've already bet. And then you get to tell me what you are choice, and we won't worry about the vig, which I always clip you on that in Vegas, but we're just going to go over under, and you tell me what you got.
And then at the end of the season, we'll compare notes to see who did better.
Even though you've got a week here to know what happened, I'm going to give you that. Okay, Pittsburgh Steelers over or under 8.5, like every season.
Oh my goodness,
like every season.
Well, I know that they're normally going to win 9 games with their current head coach, so I'll take the over 8.5.
Yeah, there you go. Okay. All right. You got the Seattle Seahawks. Well, I thought played pretty darn well.
Oh, the defense looked great.
They did look good. And Darnold was fine. He's as advertised.
I thought that ball was picked, and all of a sudden the tight end had it in the end zone. I'm like, what's going on?
Yeah, exactly. Okay, over, under 8.5.
Over.
Nice. Okay. I do this every year and I just put myself through the pain of it. Carolina Panthers.
Yeah.
Over under 6.5.
Oh goodness. I'll take the under on Carolina. I'm not a buyer.
Well, I would have chosen that this week also after watching them. 49ers. Over under 10.5.
Under 10.5.
Ooh.
I don't believe in the Niners. Plus Kittle's now on injured reserve.
Injuries
have been an issue.
McCaffrey is going to last. Okay, Ohio State. The Ohio State regular season wins under or over 10.5.
Oh, my gosh. Well, I've seen their schedule. I'll take over.
All right. We only have 12 there, right?
Yeah.
All right.
That's what I'm saying. You're like, okay, they're going to go 11-1. That's what you're saying.
That's exactly what you're saying. Oregon, our Oregon Ducks, or not mine, but the listeners, I'm sure.
Yes.
Over under 10.5.
I'm going to take the over. I think they're going to lose one game.
Ooh, okay. Utah, regular season's over under 7.5.
Over. Kyle
Yes,
Whittingham is too damn good.
I agree.
He's too good. And
I
Utah
agree.
last year was a blip in the radar.
They didn't have a quarterback. They were
No, they've
messing
got a
with
quarterback now. Their defense is good, line of scrimmage play.
That guy
Kyle
was fun
Whittingham
to
is
watch.
Yeah.
That guy is fun to watch.
Yeah, Utah's legit.
If he can make it through the season because he runs a lot.
Oh.
Okay, Cowboys, over under 7.5.
Oh, my goodness. They look pretty good against the Eagles. They play in a tough division. I'll take the under 7.5 on the Cowboys.
Under. All right, I got the over on that.
Too many questions on defense.
Commanders, over under 9.5.
I'll take the over.
Ooh, I got the under.
It's dangerous. The Commanders,
right.
that's a dicey one because
I think they're going to have regression.
They could.
I think so. Bengals, over under 9.5.
I'll take the under.
Under. I'm with you.
I'll take the under because the Bengals, they should not have beaten the Browns.
No, I had the Browns all day long.
Their average yard per play was poor. Their defense was really poor, and their offensive line might get Joe Burrow killed.
Yes.
Might.
Absolutely. And the defense is not good, and I think the Browns just their job is to lose games.
It is. It's like they have a kicker who can't make a short field goal and an extra point.
I feel bad for Flacco. He's out there, but they should have won that game.
Ugh.
So leading us to the Browns, over under 5.5.
Under. I've seen their schedule.
All right, I got
the problem is that they're not going to play Flacco the entire year. So once they put the young guys in, the losses will continue to mount. That's my theory there.
I agree. That's kind of like the Daniel Jones effect of the Colts. I think as long as he's in there, I think they have a chance of winning games. Not long term for the program, but same thing with Flacco.
But I love going through this because it's just fun. But take a listen to their. So they just played. They just played the Bengals, right?
Right.
Next 5 games for the Browns: at Baltimore, home against Green Bay, at Detroit, home against the Vikings. At the Steelers.
Yeah.
I mean, that is brutal.
That's tough. Detroit may not be as tough as we thought.
Yeah.
But next week, the Ravens started out at -13. It's down to -11. But, that's
a huge number.
That's a huge number. So, anyway, okay. So, we got it. I've written it down.
All right, good.
I'll let you be the keeper of it.
Okay. I'll keep it, and then we'll refer to it at the end of the season. Colin Amos, law offices of Goldberg and Jones in studio to answer your questions. And the first question I got for you, Colin, is under the table income part of property division?
Well, property division obviously is what's accumulated. So certainly anything you accumulate, like all my massive winnings are marital property or community property. But yes, if you make under the table income and it creates savings or any kind of investments. The real interesting question is under the table income used as a basis for determining child support or spousal support. The answer is also yes. All income from any source is considered income for the purpose of determining your child support calculation or your spousal support. So
interesting.
That's that. But you got to prove it. Then the question is, how do you prove it?
Yeah.
But judges know. When you're a contractor. I love contractors, but nobody likes to pay taxes, and nobody's all that stuff. Hairstylists, manicurists, or whatever. They're getting cash. The people who clean houses, they're not declaring every cent.
Yeah.
And but yet that can be included as income if you can track it.
When I get my hair cut, my stylist loves it when I pay her in cash.
I always pay.
I don't need to ask why, but she loves the cash.
Yeah, she does. I always pay in cash. That's right. And it's not disclosed because we have a lot of clients my wife's a hairstylist, and she makes $60,000 a year. But I said, well, I'm sure she does not claim it, and you didn't claim that either until now. When you filed jointly, you didn't put no. We got to correct that. She actually made 60 adjusted gross income. So, yep, we see it all the time.
Interesting. Yeah, cash payments always create very interesting accounting when it comes to taxes.
Oh yeah, those side jobs as a contractor, those aren't included, or. Others more legitimate are overtime. Is that included? Yes, overtime is included. Well, it's not guaranteed. Nothing's guaranteed. Your job is not guaranteed. So all income sources, we're trying to look at what the average income is, and certainly all sources are included.
All right, next question, which I'm sure pops up with you once in a while. Colin, my spouse co-signed on a loan for somebody else. We are going through the divorce process. Would I be held accountable for that?
Only if it's like your child, like a educational loan or something like a Parent Plus loan. But no, other than that, it's a cosigner. You're not really truly responsible. You're just insuring the basis by which they get the loan. So if your spouse had a sister or a friend that they co-signed on it, that would be their separate liability.
All right, here's the next question. Colin, I am just starting the divorce process. My wife's parents gave us the money for the down payment on our house, but we both made payments over the last 10 years. Will this impact who gets the home?
Less of an impact of who gets the home. The more interesting question is, would that have to be paid back, or would they get that money back, or does that have any bearing on things? And the question I always ask is, who's on the title? Are you both on the title? You're both on the loan? Because a lot of parents do help their kids or their kid, not both parties, with a down payment. And when they do that, aside from the gift letter that most lenders require to say it's not a loan, it's a gift, if there's not some promissory note after the fact, at least, that says pay it back, and both parties are on the title, that's a commingling effect, and that money, you're not going to be able to get that back or say, well, I get that $50,000 back because my parents gave that to us, and therefore that's part of mine. Unless there's something specific writing to it, no. Or the house is just in that party's name where you can maybe argue some separate property contribution.
All right, this is a question, Colin, that comes up every once in a while. It says, Colin, I bought a house with my soon-to-be ex-girlfriend. How do I get out of this mess?
Yes, that comes up all the time.
Yeah.
And I always tell people the worst person to buy a house with is your ex-wife, and certainly not to own with when your ex-girlfriend. It creates a problem. A lot of people do that. They buy a property together. There's two ways out of this mess. One can be a little cleaner. It's called a partition proceeding through a real estate aspect, and that's when you own property on title together, and you're however, in this situation, breaking up, then you go through a real estate process to essentially sell the property and then divide the proceeds equally between the parties, and that's through real estate. The way through family law, we deal with it all the time, is through a dissolution of a domestic partnership, as they call it in Oregon, or a dissolution of a committed intimate relationship in Washington, which is a ridiculous title. But that's where you basically say we acted like man and wife, we bought property together. But when you file that dissolution of a domestic partnership, that brings more than just that piece of property into the mix as potential equitable division. So you got to be careful of opening that door. But that's how, if you can't just come to a conclusion on how to resolve the property division, you end up having to go through that legal process. So a partition proceeding or a dissolution of a domestic partnership.
That's great. Colin Amos, law office of Goldberg Jones, is in studio. Telephone number 1-800-DIVORCE. The first call to Colin is at no charge. So any questions you have, any concerns, he will respond to you and answer every question. If you are facing a divorce or custody issue, 1-800-DIVORCE, or if you need a prenuptial agreement, Goldberg Jones is the place to go. Next question, can you file for bankruptcy during the divorce process?
You can file for it during the divorce process, although bankruptcy being federal and on the federal level, it stops a lot of proceedings on the state level. It kind of puts a stay on a lot of things. So it kind of slows down the divorce process because we can't make ultimate financial conclusions until the bankruptcy is determined. Also, if you file bankruptcy before you file the divorce, you can file jointly with your partner. So if you have a mountain of debt and you both realize, yeah, we don't like each other anymore, but hey, we both have the same debt, let's get rid of this, conclude the bankruptcy, you can file jointly. If you do it as part of the divorce, it may cause problems getting through the divorce, but even after the divorce, then you have to file separately, which creates other problems because when you're awarded certain debt that's joint, and then somebody files bankruptcy on that debt, it can go back on the other party, even though it was awarded to you in the divorce process. So there's complications.
All right, next question. Colin, what happens when business partners who are married get divorced?
Again, kind of to the real property. It's a real problem when you're in business with your wife and then you're getting a divorce. Not only you're going through the divorce and all of that, custody visitation and your house and retirement accounts, but then you have this business that if it's successful, it's really traumatic. But it's just like anything. It's like an arm's length transaction with any partner. where we have to value the business. We have to have present value. Is there goodwill? There's personal goodwill. There's business goodwill. Personal goodwill is it's me, and if I don't participate in the business, it really takes that goodwill away. So there's not much value. And then there's business goodwill, which is just a brand that has some independent value. So you have to kind of determine what kind of value it is, and then buying the other person out. So it's a business transaction, even though you're married, assuming that they're true partners. A lot of spouses really don't participate in the business. They get a paycheck from the business, but they don't even know where the business is.
Yeah.
And they're not true partners. And usually the person that's really invested in running the business gets the business.
All right, that makes sense. Next question, Colin. How is spousal support calculated in the state of Oregon?
Yeah, spousal support is mushy. I tell people child support's a calculation. Spousal support is a negotiation. It is not a formula. But the factors that the court looks at in determining alimony, spousal support, spousal maintenance, whatever you want to call it, two biggest are length of marriage and income disparity at the date of divorce. Others include health, age, educational background, employability, work history. Then in Oregon, compounding that mush is the fact there's three types of spousal support: transitional, compensatory, and maintenance. So none of those are like plug and play numbers, but they take into all these factors into consideration. And then there's a differential that we look at. So your gross income, so what the party could make or is making compared to what you're making. And then we figure out what that differential is. And then we're trying to bridge the gap of that differential and then further define it. Is this transitional because the person can get to a better position and make more money? Or is it going to be maintenance, which is no matter what, there's going to be this maintained disparity throughout the marriage? And then we have that third factor of, well, how long have you been married? Because if you're married 10 years, it's going to be maybe half the length of the marriage in Oregon versus if you're married 25 years, the court looks at things as indefinite spousal support. So very mushy, and that's why I tell our clients, get in, let's do some analysis, because modifying it after you've agreed to it and going back to court, it's like an act of God modification. It is very difficult to fix or change later.
All right, one more question for you, Colin. How are pets divided up in a divorce?
I have.
It's a big deal.
It is a big deal. I have a big dog. His name is Winslow. He's a half Great Dane and half Mastiff. He's 200 pounds. He's huge, and I love him like my family puts him first.
Who loves him more? Who's he closer with, you or your
Absolutely,
wife?
myself.
Yeah.
It's me, my daughter, my wife, and then my son. And we all understand the hierarchy, but he is connected to me. But bottom line is, I didn't realize how big a deal this was, but I've done a lot of pet custody cases. Now, from the court's perspective, it's just property. They don't want to get into it.
Yeah.
But from a person's perspective, we have done a lot of parenting plans, where
with pets.
Well, yeah, where you have visitation and weekends and who's picking them up, and you can't leave them with anybody unless we've decided on who that can be, and then cost and how do you apportion cost. But outside of that, the answer is, who has the most kind of provable connection? Who bought the pet? Who licensed the pet? Who's it licensed to? Or who bought insurance to the pet? Who's taken the pet to the pound more? Whatever. Yeah. So there's just a lot of little mushy factors. But we did have a judge who actually got some bacon out, and he said he gave bacon to each of the parties, and then he sent them across the other side, and he said, "Okay, you both hold up the bacon and see which way the dog goes."
Amazing.
You can't say anything, and then they both stood there, and the dog said, "Okay, you get the dog." I mean, that judge was not amused to have to deal with that issue.
He was probably irritated about that. Yeah,
he's a cat guy.
Oh, yeah, he's a cat guy. If someone tried to take puppy shots from me, I would disappear, and you'd have to extradite me and the dog back to the States.
I'm with you.
No one's going to take your dog.
No. They'd have to buy a truck, and they'd have to buy special ramps. I mean, he's 200 pounds. You can't carry him.
He's a big boy.
He's a big boy.
All right, 1-800-DIVORCE, the telephone number. Call, and we'll answer any of your questions. And look, it's very simple. There's no charge for the first call. Often when Colin will talk to you and answer your questions, you may find out you don't need an attorney, but make the phone call so that he can point you in the right direction. Also, custody issues, they handle that. If you need a prenuptial agreement, which, again, we'll say this again, Colin, we encourage prenuptial agreements.
Absolutely. It takes us, you don't pay us attorneys nearly as much in a divorce proceeding if that happens, but certainly good for you.
All right, good. 1-800-DIVORCE. You can check him out online at goldbergjones-or.com. He joins me in studio every month to answer your questions. We've got the over-unders, so we will keep track throughout the year to see how we're doing.
That's right.
It's great to see you, my man.
Great football talk.
All right, you got it. All right, Colin Amos, we'll keep things rolling. Rip City Drive with Chad Doing on your home of the.
And great football talk.
All right, you got it. All right, Colin Amos, we'll keep things rolling. Rip City Drive with Chad Doing on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, big thanks to Colin Amos, Goldberg Jones. Divorce for Men, 1-800-DIVORCE. Well, I really did enjoy that first weekend of NFL action. How about that game on Friday night with the Chiefs and the Chargers? And I've been telling you now for years that I think Justin Herbert is a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. There's no doubt in my mind. I don't need someone to tell me that, a coach, a scout, or whoever. I've watched enough football to know when someone's elite. Justin Herbert is as good as anybody in the NFL. Now, is he better than Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes or Joe Burrow? Yeah, probably not. But should Matthew Stafford be ranked ahead of him in those quarterback tiers? No. And I was just happy for Justin Herbert to have that moment in that game in Brazil against Patrick Mahomes. And what's great about Justin Herbert this year compared to last, you remember last year he had that foot issue, that injury? And so I think what the Chargers did is they tried to limit his exposure to taking hits. He was unable, based on the injury, to really move and use his legs as a weapon. And now that he's healthy, we saw what he was able to do against Kansas City. Not only was he razor sharp on third down and delivering the football into tight windows and being on target, and heck, he didn't have to worry about tight windows. Half his receivers are wide open the entire game. But Justin Herbert can do everything you need a franchise quarterback to do. And now that he's able to move and utilize his legs as a weapon, he is a bad boy. And how about that pose on that game-winning scramble for the first down on third down? And he went for the slide. He was posing as he was sliding across the turf. It was beautiful. I just thought Justin Herbert was spectacular. And I think you look at the Chargers now and you're like, man, they're a problem. And the other issue, too, they lost Rashawn Slater, their left tackle. That's not good. Like, that damages a team when you lose a guy up front like that. But they're good enough up front to be able to shuffle some guys around. And the bottom line is with offensive line, if you have a quarterback who gets rid of the football on time and is on schedule with the offense, it sure makes it a lot easier on the offensive line. He's terrific. And I'll say this about Kansas City. You know me, I'm a big believer in Patrick Mahomes. But the Chiefs have got Philadelphia coming up this weekend. They're last place in the AFC West after 1 week. I think it's the first time they've been last place in the division since like 98, somewhere in that area. It's been a long time. That's a very successful and consistent franchise. It's not the offense I'm worried about because they got Patrick Mahomes, but that defense looked washed. I mean, the Chargers did whatever they wanted. Receivers wide open. They ran the football. Justin Herbert was unstoppable. And the Chiefs just didn't have an answer. And the weird thing is, and part of the reason why Kansas City's annoying, not only does Patrick Mahomes make big plays, but you're always waiting for Steve Spagnuolo to drop some type of blitz or special defense to screw somebody over. But they just didn't have the answer. So keep an eye on Philadelphia and Kansas City. They could be staring at 0-2. Like, Philadelphia is not necessarily the team you want to play when you're trying to figure things out. But I thought the Chargers were terrific. And after week one, you can pretty much look at the AFC West and know it's going to be a big-time problem. What do we say about the Raiders? With Pete Carroll, they're no longer a rudderless ship. They went into New England. They played well on both sides of the football and got the win. The Chargers took out the Chiefs down in Brazil on Friday night. And then the Denver Broncos, not good offensively against Tennessee, but their defense showcasing that they probably are the best unit in the NFL. They're super fast. They have multiple guys up front who can rush the passer. They're coming off a year where they had 63 sacks to lead the NFL. They've got the best corner in football in Patrick Surtain. And Vance Joseph is on fire as a defensive play caller right now. So what I'm trying to say is the Denver Broncos have a legit defense. I was very disappointed in Bo in the offense. And Sean Payton, hey, Sean, do you really want to run the football? Do you really care about running the ball? You did in the second half, but in the first half, where was the run? Can you just slow down on all the great compliments about your top 5 quarterback and let everyone know how much of a genius you are and just get back to calling a good game, please? Gosh, Peyton, figure it out already. That offensive performance against Tennessee was embarrassing, especially after all the chatter you had. And Sean Payton loves him some Sean Payton, but that was an awful offensive performance in week 1 against Tennessee. All right, we'll keep things rolling. I got a lot more to talk about football-wise. If you want to jump on board, 503-248-0620. You can find me on X at Chad and Rip City. 503-248-0620. I've got some tickets. Eric Church is going to be at Motor Center in November. I've got tickets for Eric Church coming up next on the Rip City Drive. All right, 5 o'clock chat here. What's up, my friends? We'll start with NFL. Jalen Carter, his ejection in the opener will serve as a suspension after missing the entire game. After cameras caught him spitting on Dak Prescott, the 49ers have cut their kicker, Jake Moody, after an awful week with a blocked field goal and a missed one against the Seahawks. George Kittle was placed on IR with a hamstring injury. The Mariners will host the Cards tonight, trying to make it 4 in a row. That first pitch at 6:40, George Kirby will get the call. 3 straight wins for the M's. They're 2 back of Houston as they start action today. Colorado expected to start Ryan Staub at quarterback Friday night when they play at Houston. And Josh Giddey's got a new extension with the Bulls, 4 years and $100 million. More of the Rip City Drive with Chad Doing coming at you right now. All right, my friends, Rip City Drive. Just listening to a little Eric Church, trying to decide if I want to hit that concert. He's going to be at Moda Center on November 7th. And I've got a pair of tickets right now in my hot little hands. So if you'd like to see Eric Church in concert live at Moda Center November 7th, we'll take caller 10 right now. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. That number again is 503-248-0620. I want to hear from an Eric Church fan. Do you like country music? 503-248-0620. Call now and you'll get a pair of tickets for Eric Church. Caller 10, 503-248-0620. All right. I don't think Michael Shacker is going to go. And as I've told you, I don't have an issue with country music. I'm from Oklahoma, so I've got a little country in me. But I like some of the older stuff. But Eric Church is going to be at Moda Center on November 7th. If you'd like to see him in concert, fire away right now, 503-248-0620. So on Sunday, I was in Denver. I went back for the Broncos and Titans game to kick off the season. The Broncos have lost 3 straight season openers, and I get really tired of going to Denver to see them lose. So my buddy Josh and I partly selected this game because we knew that more than likely they were going to win the game. Now, that wasn't necessarily the case after the game began, but that was the thinking going in. We wanted to hit the Cincinnati game, which is coming up in a few weeks on the 29th, but that also happens to be the same day that the Trailblazers have their media day. So we went to the opener. We flew out on Sunday morning early. A flight left just after 5 o'clock. Got into Denver, zipped over to the hotel, got our stuff dropped off at the hotel. We chilled for just a moment, and then we cruised over to downtown, found our parking spot, and then we've got it all dialed in. We know which entrance to go into on the north side, and then right when they open the gates, they've got these sweet tables and these stools that you can sit at, and they've got screens everywhere. You just got to be one of the first people in to grab one of the seats, and then we hang out for 2 hours until kickoff and watch the morning action. And so we went to the game. The weather was perfect. It was a spectacular day. And then we left late last night. So we played 36 holes of golf in Aurora before we went back to the airport to come home. So it was a very quick in and out type of trip. I love hitting golf balls in the rarefied air. It's the best. But we had a good time. My buddy Josh is a good dude. He's the guy who had a heart attack and nearly died on the golf course up at Wildwood, which will be the 5-year anniversary of that episode on October 3rd. So we always go back and make a trip to Denver every year to catch a Bronco game. So we had a great time. It was a lot of fun, really enjoyed it, but the game was madly frustrating. Football might be the death of me, like a few other things. Technical issues on the radio, cars in the left lane on the freeway going below the speed limit, thinking they're helping out society. You know, the normal issues in life that we deal with. But that game was frustrating because Sean Payton, for the last 2 months, has been telling me how great Bo Nix is, how smart he is, and how great the Broncos are going to be. And I'm here for it. I want them to be a great football team. But when you say all that crap and then you come out against Tennessee and you put up that type of offensive performance with 4 turnovers, and Bo Nix had 3 of them and threw 2 interceptions, and you're leading 10-9 at halftime, and the only reason why you have a lead is because the Tennessee coaching staff is stupid. What were they doing? You've got a rookie quarterback. You're pinned inside your 5, and you're going to try and move the football with less than a minute on the clock in the half? Well, I appreciate you doing that because it resulted in a Bronco touchdown, and they took the lead. But the offense was brutal. Now, they ran the football in the second half, and they did so with a lot of dominance. The offensive line was strong. R.J. Harvey looked good. J.K. Dobbins got in the mix, and their defense was dominant. The Denver Bronco defense is elite, and it's my one reason for optimism. I think they had 6 sacks, and it was like every time Cam Ward dropped back, he had a sea of orange that was looking to hammer him into the surf. Unbelievable. And they've got multiple guys who can do it. And they're deep in the secondary with multiple guys that can cover. And Vance Joseph just showed no mercy on the rookie quarterback. And I'll say this about Cam Ward. He handled himself extremely well. He didn't make the big mistake. He's obviously very mobile. He was looking to attack downfield. He's not a dink and dunk type of guy. I thought his poise and the way he carried himself under the immense pressure of that Bronco defense was impressive. Very good. But there's one thing I know. The Broncos on offense are a work in progress and have a long way to go before they can get to the level of Baltimore or Buffalo. And I think Bo Nix is going to be fine, but he did not play well. Some of the decision-making, it's like, what are you doing, man? Did you not see that defender there? So, anyways, frustrating. And now they move on to play the Colts. And I have no idea what to expect. The problem with week 1 in the NFL, everyone always overreacts. But you can't overreact to week 1. Wacky stuff happens. Guys will have great performances. We start making these bold predictions and then come to find out that week 1 was a bit of a mirage. And I think that's the case with so many situations. Do I think Daniel Jones has been reborn in Indianapolis? No. Do I think Justin Fields is a franchise quarterback after that phenomenal game against Pittsburgh? No. Do I think Kansas City is as awful as they looked in that Friday night game against the Chargers? No. But there you have it. But there are some teams that should have reason for concern right now. You know, I watched the Bengals-Browns game. Terrific football game. I know that the Bengals got the win, but they were fortunate. Only because the Browns kicker is a clown and couldn't make an extra point or a short field goal, and the Browns lose that game in the end by a point. Unbelievable. By a single point. It's like, what are you guys doing? I thought Joe Flacco played pretty well, but the Bengals, their offensive line might get Joe Burrow killed, and their defense is not good. The Browns were able to move the football. The Browns had great success on 3rd and 4th down. The Bengals have got to clean some things up. I thought that was impressive. The game of the day until Buffalo and Baltimore happened was the Jets and the Steelers. Aaron Rodgers looked awesome with 4 touchdowns. He continued to fight and battle after the Steelers got down big early, and Rodgers was huge late. And Justin Fields may have had the best starting game of all starters in the NFL on Sunday. He was awesome. And I believe there's a stat out there where he didn't make a bad decision. his throws were on time and on target. But with Justin Fields, we've seen enough of him to know what he is. So I'm very curious to see how things will progress for Justin Fields as things move on. We just don't know. So we shall see. But Justin Fields was terrific. And I thought Aaron Rodgers, he had to feel good about that. 4 touchdowns, made good decisions. He's not mobile and doesn't necessarily, have the athleticism in his legs he once had. That's pretty obvious, especially after the Achilles injury. But I think where Aaron Rodgers is going to make up for that is just like what we saw from Peyton Manning late in his Denver run. Aaron Rodgers' football IQ is so high, he will make up for his lack of athleticism by making sure that his team's in the right play, by distributing the football and getting it in the right spots. And if Aaron Rodgers can be the point guard and distribute and get it into the hands of his playmakers, they're going to be just fine. But if I'm on the Steelers after what they've had and the run they've had at quarterback of late, you've got to feel pretty good when you're standing in the huddle because you know that the guy who's calling the plays now knows what he's doing. And you know he's got incredible arm talent and he's accurate. And when you have that and you're not used to that, it makes a big difference. But I thought Justin Fields was great. I thought Aaron Rodgers was terrific. I thought that was a great, great football game. And one thing you'll say about Aaron Glenn, the Jets' new head coach, that guy's a motivator, and that team plays really hard for him. What a great game that was. It was back and forth like a pinball machine. It's like, are you freaking kidding me? Now, the Seahawks fall in just annoying fashion to the 49ers. Credit to Brock Purdy because he showed some toughness in that game and continued to fight, scratch, and claw and put his team up late in that game inside of 2 minutes with a sweet touchdown pass that I thought was picked until the fifth-string tight end had it in his hands in the end zone. And then Sam Darnold made a big play down the sideline to put the Seahawks in position, but then he got strip-sacked and the game was over. But again, if you're a Seahawks fan, I think you should feel pretty good about what you saw. The defense is obviously locked in with Coach McDonald, and I thought Sam Darnold showed some promising signs in that game. But the Seahawks are a tough team. Their defense was good. But the 49ers showed toughness. The problem with the 49ers, they continue to sustain injuries at an alarming rate. No Kittle now. He's on IR. That's a team that cannot afford to lose playmakers right now. But what a football game that was. Other things that stood out to me, I thought Green Bay looked like a Super Bowl contender. I told you before the season got underway, I thought they would win the division. And then they got Micah Parsons, and I'm like, they're a Super Bowl contender. And you look around the NFC, who else? Right now it's pretty much Philadelphia and Green Bay right at the top of the conference. But I thought Green Bay looked dominant. And Detroit was exactly what we thought. They lose 2 great coordinators in Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson. Dan Campbell's the CEO-type coach, not a coordinator himself. And they're in a bit of a transition right now. But their offensive line looked tattered. They were under pressure throughout the course of the day. And their defense couldn't come up with the big stop, and Green Bay pounded them. I thought the most embarrassing performance was Miami getting lit up by the Colts. It's like, what were they doing? Unbelievable. 503-248-0620. And I thought the Bucs showed toughness to come back in that win over the Falcons. The Raiders did not look like a rudderless ship. Things are good for the Vegas now because they got Pete Carroll. He knows what he's doing. I thought the Giants were hot trash and Russell Wilson was terrible. It's not that the Commanders played great, but the Giants are awful. Jaguars did what they were supposed to do against the Panthers, and there you have it. What a great first week it was. That morning slate of games was terrific. All right, we'll keep things rolling. I've got more thoughts. I want to hear from you, 503-248-0620. Did we get the winner for Eric Church, Shacker? We did! And we'll have more of those tickets to give away as well. You got the Rip City Drive with Chad doing on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, I thought this was Steely Dan, but Shacker pointed out that it's Donald Fagen, who, of course, is part of Steely Dan. All right, what's going on? I hope you're enjoying your Tuesday. There's some clouds out there. Man, this week, just so many different things going on. It's hard to keep my mind straight. I am looking forward to another week of NFL football. The Thursday night game this week is Commanders at the Packers. That should be pretty good for a Thursday night game. We're so accustomed to getting crap games on Thursday night. You get Washington and Green Bay from Lambeau. That's pretty good. Some of the other games, Jags and Bengals, Giants, Cowboys, Bears, Lions, Rams, Titans, Patriots, Dolphins. I think the best games on the slate that I've seen so far, it's probably Steelers and Seahawks. That game's amazing. 10 o'clock kickoff down in Pittsburgh. And then I would say after that, Eagles and Chiefs. Those are the two best games. Definitely some intrigue with the Falcons and Vikings. Yeah, I can't wait. And that week one was great. College football has been superb thus far. And we're just a couple of weeks away from Oregon and Penn State. Telephone number here is 503-248-0620. You can always listen live via our free iHeartRadio app. Great place to podcast a show. And just go to youtube.com and pull up our homepage, Rip City Radio 620. Oh, looky here. Out in Hubbard, it's my man Brian in Hubbard. He's a big Packer fan. If I was a Packer fan right now, I would be jacked up after what they did to Detroit. Let's go there right now. Brian, my man, what's up, brother?
Chad, it's so good to talk to you. I love the comments that you talked about the D. I was so surprised when that Parson deals went down, but I am going to be so excited just to see how this develops. I know Parson was saying something about, like, if his contract had been settled or whatever, been traded and worked this group that he's really excited with, they really could have dominated the Lions. But speaking of D, though, Denver's got a nasty D. I mean, that is scary, dude. So I don't know. I'd like to see them both, another repeat of the 90 Super Bowl. But it's so good to talk to you, dude. You're always positive. I appreciate you being on the air.
How you doing? How's the family, man? What's up? How you doing?
Oh, doing good. All my boys are both out of the Navy, and things are going really good. I'm getting close to retirement. But, yeah, I'm just really – like you guys have been saying, the season, when football rolls around, it's just another level of excitement. I really love it. But anyway, hey, I was going to – before you put me aside, I didn't know if I could talk to you off the air afterwards if you got time. But of course. I love you, brother. And
you know what's amazing, Brian? I was thinking about this the other day. That first time we met at that Coney Island place over there in Southeast, that was 19 years ago. 19.
That is my wife's laugh because it's like, I told her, I said, yeah, I'm going to meet this group with, Chad, CIP is what I said. But, yeah, it was listen to you on the Romy show, and you're just amazing, dude. So I know you had a stint in the Bay Area, but anyway, I just always appreciate it, love you, and you've done so many things locally. I appreciate it.
Well, hey, I want to ask you about the Packers real quick. I really believed once they got Micah, like I see them now as a legitimate Super Bowl contender. Is that how you see it as a Packer fan? Like, I really think they're legit. How do you see it?
Yeah. I totally see that. I don't know if the D coordinator is going to be there long. I know he's with Saleh. I think he worked with Saleh out on the 49ers. I just can't wait to see him develop it. It just depends on Jordan Love. And I just, if he's got to stay healthy, consistent, he's kind of a gunslinger. But the receivers, I love Tucker Kraft as our tight end. And then we got the Oregon State tight end too. But I love this team, and they got younger when they made this trade. They're like the youngest team, and so I'm really excited to see them develop. But Anyway, Denver's scary. I got them on my fantasy. They're always my D on my fantasy team. But anyway,
Yeah, I love it.
Appreciate it, Chad.
You got it, man.
I want to talk to you after. Yeah, call me later.
I will. I'll call you, buddy. There you go. There's Brian and Hubbard. Yeah, Jeff Hafley, defensive coordinator for the Packers. The problem is, and the good coaches know this, just ask Nick Saban, when you have great success, other teams are going to come for your coordinators. That's just the way the game is played. And you've got to go through the process of replacing them. And the Lions right now are suffering from losing two great ones in Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson. And what a rough opening night that was for Ben Johnson, too. Yeah, struggles for Caleb Williams. I couldn't believe J.J. McCarthy turning it on, flipping a switch, and getting white hot in that fourth quarter. And then Bears fans suffering once again. You watch a Bears game, it's like, are they ever going to be good ever again? It's just unbelievable. And Caleb Williams, he had some moments, but still some issues in terms of being on schedule, on target. He missed some throws, and he battled late. But J.J. McCarthy was terrific. A couple of those throws that McCarthy made were, high-level throws layered in there and on target. And he showed some toughness. My favorite part of the game after that touchdown run where he kind of put the game away, the veterans on the sideline who came over to dap him up. Here's a youngster who just played his first game, got the win, and the vets coming over there to give him love. I just thought that was neat, man. That's one of those good moments, and O'Connell was pumped. That guy's so good with QBs in the offense. And that was an impressive win by the Vikings. Now, the Bears are idiots. I don't know what Ben Johnson was doing. It's like, did you have brain damage? So the Bears, they put themselves in a position with that drive. They score the touchdown. They're down by 3. They have 2 timeouts. They were fortunate enough to get the score before the 2-minute warning. So that basically gave them 3 timeouts. Or they had 1 timeout. So what you have to do in that situation is very simple. 2:02 on the clock, and you just scored the touchdown, so you're kicking it off. There are 2 options. Either your kicker hammers it through the end zone, or if he doesn't think he can boom it out of the end zone, you kick it out of bounds. It doesn't matter what yardage you lose with the penalty because yardage at that point is irrelevant. All that matters is saving that timeout. But they didn't do that. They kick it in the end zone. The returner catches the ball, looks over to his head coach, and the guy waves him out. And once he stepped out of the end zone, the clock ticked below 2 minutes, and then boom, there's a 2-minute warning, game over. Because you only have 1 timeout. And so when they got the ball back, there was 16 seconds on the clock? It's just so, I don't understand. There are more games lost than won out of people just being dumb. It's really bad. And it happens every week. And these guys are getting paid millions of dollars to be really bad at their job. And if you don't know how to manage a game or manage the clock, hire someone that does and have him tell you what to do. Why is that so hard? Like Brian Callahan, head coach of the Titans, he must be crazy. He gave the Broncos that football game. You've got a young team with a young quarterback making his very first start, week 1. And you've got the lead, and then you put him in a position to try and throw balls out of the end zone and stop the clock when you could have run it out and gone into halftime with the lead on the road in Denver in week 1 with a rookie quarterback. But instead, you try to get cute, and Denver gets the ball deep into the field and scores a touchdown. I for the life of me, I'll never understand it. And I thought John Harbaugh, he's a pretty smart guy. He had a bad game in that opener against the Bills. Some of these coaching decisions is maddening. Even Kenny Dillingham, head coach at Arizona State. I love Dillingham, and I love the Sun Devils, but his decision to go with man coverage to bring extra pressure on that play with inside of a minute, allowing a 59-yard touchdown after giving up that touchdown on 4th and long in the playoff game against Texas. If you ever wondered why coaches utilize prevent defense, go back and watch the highlights on Arizona State, Mississippi State. You've got them against the ropes. The only thing that can beat you is a long touchdown pass. That's why you need to have guys back in zone. Cover 2, something, but don't get cute because these are kids. And you put them in a tough situation, they get confused for a moment, they get burned, and game over. And that's what happened. After they scored 20 unanswered points, after opening up looking terrible, they battled back and worked their tails off and took the lead. That's a game they should have won. But because of a coaching decision, they lost. Unbelievable. It's crazy. But that stuff happens all the time. So just keep an eye on the coaching. And there are certain guys like Mike McDaniel. I don't know if he's going to make it through the year. That performance against the Colts was awful. Like the Dolphins looked really bad. Like really, really bad. And the Colts just dominated that football game. All right. I want to talk a little bit about what we saw in week 1 in the NFL. Just some of the passing thoughts I have with these different games. One thing for certain, if you watch the Ravens and Bills, those two teams with those two quarterbacks, Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen, there aren't too many teams at that level. The talent on the rosters, the quarterback play, and the skill position players that they have. Like those two teams are likely going to match up again in the postseason, and those two teams are going to be factors throughout the entire season. Those are really good football teams, powerhouses. And the Ravens had that game won until Derrick Henry fumbled. I just thought Josh Allen was sensational. His playmaking, the way he continued to battle, it looked like they had lost all their juice and then continued to fight, and they got the win. Miraculous play after miraculous play, and some of the throws that Josh made were awesome. But the Ravens and Bills are super legit, and the thought going into the season that the Bills and Ravens were going to be two of the best, no question about it. But that game was huge because I think the Bills will have the best record in the AFC, and that tiebreak now belongs to them against Baltimore. And if Buffalo gets home field, they're going to have a great chance to go to the Super Bowl. And that's really what they need. They need to avoid going to places like Kansas City come postseason time. I thought the Packers and Lions, as I mentioned with Brian Hubbard, I think the Packers are legit contenders. And I think with the addition of Micah Parsons, they're only going to get better. And I think with the Lions, I think they're a good team with a lot of talent. But their loss of coordinator, they look disorganized on the offensive end. Their offensive line did not have a good game. And their defense gave up too many big plays. The Lions, I thought going into the year, were going to take a step back and regress a bit. And game 1 did nothing to change my thoughts on that. I thought the 49ers showed great toughness. I thought the Seahawks would get the win. But I did say last week, I didn't understand why the 49ers were favored. It didn't make sense. They were beat up with injuries. They were playing on the road in Seattle. We know Seattle's defense is good. They got Sam Darnold. And yet they found a way to scratch out a victory. So tough. I do not understand the Broncos' offensive attack. They ran the football for over 150 yards, most of that coming late. Sean Payton has got to find a way to get in a position to where he's comfortable calling a game with more runs and finding balance. Quit trying to overthink the thing. Quit trying to be the smartest guy in the room. Just run the football. Give your quarterback the help and balance that he needs. I didn't like the way Bo Nix played. I didn't like the game that Sean Payton called, but their defense is awesome. And we'll see if Bo Nix can straighten things out. But I think over the last 7 games, he's had multiple games with 2 or more interceptions. Not the opener I was hoping for Bo Nix. I thought the Commanders were good, not great, but the Giants are awful. I thought the Steelers with Aaron Rodgers were tremendous. He was on point. He looked comfortable out there. He clearly can't move the way he could, but his smarts and understanding the game are going to put him in the right position most of the time. But he's got the arm talent. The guy's so good. And there's nothing you can throw at him defensive-wise that he hasn't seen before. Credit to Justin Fields, too. He had one of the best games of the weekend. It just wasn't enough as his team gave up 34 points and the Steelers got the win. But I guess the big question coming out of that game is, is that Justin Fields, or are we going to see him return and start to go back to more what he is? Because he was accurate. He was on time. He was playing with confidence. He was showing his athleticism. He was wildly impressive. Cardinals and Saints, virtually unwatchable. I thought the Raiders were really good. Geno Smith had a monster day. And the Raiders' operation just looking smooth out there. like really smooth. And I like seeing the connection. Pete Carroll brought in Geno Smith for a reason because Geno and Pete understand each other. Geno knows what he wants to accomplish. And the Raiders looked like a team that was competent. It's amazing what making the right hire a coach can do for a franchise. And you watch Pete, he loves to coach. It's amazing to me the guy at his age can have that type of energy and passion for what he does. But I would play hard for that guy. I thought the Raiders looked great against the Patriots. There's no doubt that New England has improved, but I just don't think they have enough yet, and they're really young. I don't see them being a postseason team. The Dolphins had one of the worst performances of the week, probably the worst. They were terrible. Tua looked bad. Their whole operation looked bad. I think Mike McDaniel now he's like dead man walking. It's just a matter of time. I thought the Bengals were fortunate to get out of Cleveland with the win. Joe Burrow didn't play well. Their offense didn't execute. Their average yards per play was poor, and their defense has got major problems. I think the Browns were like 11 of 18 on 3rd and 4th down. Joe Flacco looked good. He did everything he needed to do to win that game. And the Browns' defense at one point took over. But the problem is they have a field goal kicker that decided to put on the dumb cap and miss a short field goal and an extra point. Myles Garrett nearly decapitated Joe Burrow. And so for the Bengals, I've talked about them being a coupon franchise where the ownership group, they want to bring in players, but they won't do it. They're like my Nana. Well, we're not going to sign that guy unless there's a coupon attached. And my Nana would drive around town spending more on gas than what she paid Lyman, and you've got a Ferrari at quarterback like Joe Burrow, you're going to get your guy killed. Lyman, and you've got a Ferrari at quarterback like Joe Burrow, you're going to get your guy killed. And Myles Garrett is a freak. I mean, he literally was in the backfield almost on every play. You might want to try and block that guy. And the Bengals are crazy. Oh, yeah, let's have Joe Burrow and then roll out the Western Family offensive line. What's that soda my mom used to buy? Craigmont or Safeway Select? Hey, Mom, that's not legit, all right? But that's the way the Browns operate. They got Joe Burrow, and then they buy the bagged cereal at the grocery store to protect him. Like the Fruitangadios, the fake Fruit Loops. That's what the Bengals are operating on. They go bag cereal. That's not cool because Joe Burrow is your quarterback. You almost got him killed out there because Myles Garrett's unblockable. So maddening. They don't deserve Joe Burrow. All right, we'll keep things rolling. And by the way, Justin Herbert's an elite quarterback, top 5. And I'm right about that. He was awesome. And how much did you enjoy watching Kansas City get lit up and now being in last place after week 1? That does not suck. And Chiefs Kingdom can suck it too, by the way. All right, we'll keep things rolling. Rip City Drive, Chad doing on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, Justin Meyers joined me in the first hour to talk some college ball. I thought he asked a great question. Through 2 weeks of college football, who's been the best team? And it's hard to pick just one. I would say LSU's on the list because of their defense and that performance I saw at Clemson when they really shut down the Tigers. I would say also on the list, Florida State with their dominance of Alabama and the way they looked in week number 2. They've been tremendous. And I think Miami, 2-0. I think they're ranked number 5 in the country right now in the AP, number 6 in the coaches. But Miami, especially with the play of their offensive line, the way they're able to run between the tackles, the way they handled Notre Dame, and the play of Carson Beck, they looked really good. But those 3 teams thus far have been the most impressive. Now, Oregon's been great. I thought Ohio State was impressive too, especially with their young quarterback in Julian Sand against Texas. So I'd say the 4 teams, Ohio State, LSU, Florida State, and Miami. Now, Oregon's been great, but their competition level thus far has been, below average, obviously. But that's okay. They look great. I thought Dante Moore was sensational against Oklahoma State. I thought the team speed was evident when you watched it on TV. The way they're finding the explosive plays in the run game again is nice. But the athleticism and arm strength and just dynamic play of Dante Moore is special. And their defense is great. The offensive tackles they brought in have been awesome as well. Offensive line looks good. A remarkable continuity for some new faces, the way they're kicking off the year. I just think as an Oregon fan, you got to feel really good about where the team sits right now, getting ready for the game against Oregon State, and then you're going to face and take on Penn State here shortly. So Oregon is sitting in a really good spot right now. Impressive, really good, and really fast. And the overall talent level, I think that's what we heard from, Justin Meyers. The overall talent level just from top down of the roster. I don't expect the game this Saturday against Northwestern to be an issue. Early game, aside from the travel and going across the country, the Ducks should smoke them. I would expect that. And then you get the Beavs, and then you get Penn State. So they're getting plenty of, warm-up time, dress rehearsal before the Penn State game. But they look like a well-oiled machine right now. That was an impressive win. 69-3 over Oklahoma State. And that was the worst loss for the Cowboys since 1907, like when the state was founded. Are you kidding me? Let's see. Is that what I heard? When was Oklahoma founded as a state? Yeah, 1907. So it's the worst loss for the Cowboys since the state was founded, 1907. It's a long time ago. That's over 100 years. And the Ducks just put it on them. But I thought Oregon really good. Just dynamic in their attack. And I think with Penn State, the game's going to be all about the trenches. Team speed goes to Oregon. Experience goes to Penn State because of their quarterback and their offensive line. But the Ducks, this is why you bring in a guy like Dan Lanning. One of the reasons why. Obviously, 1, because he can recruit like a mother. 2, he's able to access different parts of the country recruiting-wise, unlike we've seen before. But obviously because he can bring in the guys up front and construct what he needs defensively to be able to compete against teams like Ohio State, teams like Penn State, these big boys, because that's what Penn State's all about. They're going to want to line up and run the football with their backfield, and they want to put their quarterback, Drew Aller, in a position where he can utilize play action and make some plays and have time to throw the ball. But the Ducks' defensive line, especially their tackles, they're stout enough, I believe, to go in there and compete and not allow Penn State to run the football down their throat. So I'm just excited about it. I think it's going to be a heck of a game. I think Ohio State and Washington play on the same day. That's a big, big day in college football. And then we're just a couple of weeks away. In fact, let's take a look at what's the other games that weekend. I know those are the 2 big ones. Let's take a look at the top 25 for that weekend. Florida State at Virginia on Friday. Ohio State, Washington. LSU is at Ole Miss. USC at Illinois. Kentucky at South Carolina. Arizona's at Iowa State. Tennessee at Mississippi State. Auburn at A&M. Utah at West Virginia, Indiana at Iowa, UMass at Missouri, Notre Dame at Arkansas, Oregon at Penn State, and Alabama at Georgia. Well, there you have it. What more do you want on a Saturday, late September? Bama, Georgia, Oregon, Penn State, Auburn, A&M, LSU, Ole Miss, Ohio State, Washington. Whew. That's going to be good. Boy, these games are great. So good. And it was fun to watch the quarterback play, too, in the NFL. Yeah, Bo Nix was terrible in his first game of his second year. I thought Caleb Williams, we saw a lot of the same issues we saw in year number one. Inaccuracy, not being on schedule. I thought J.J. McCarthy bounced back after a rough start to finish strong. I thought Cam Ward showed a lot of toughness in his first game, that road game at Denver against a swarming defense. Yeah, it's great. But Oregon looks good. The Oregon State situation, I don't even know what to say about it. But that Fresno State game was about as frustrating as it can get. I did think the punt or the attempted punt or whatever you call that, it was like a horrible tee shot. Bad snap followed by the punter running around, soccer kicking the ball, worm burning it right into the hands of Fresno State, who scooped and scored. And then you put a microphone in front of the head coach who just saw that take place, and he drops an F-bomb. I would too. What do you expect these coaches to close? And the team is putting up one of the worst performances that you can remember. And the team is putting up one of the worst performances that you can remember. It's not going to go well, I can tell you that much. But he was honest, especially when he talked about the special teams. All right, big thanks to Alex Brink, Justin Meyers.